Well, we'll see you in a few. Thank you, Dennis. New at 6, a local agency fighting homelessness has noticed a disturbing correlation, a link between chronic homelessness and people who experience domestic violence during their teenage years.
ABC Action News in-depth reporter Anthony Hill digs deeper into that connection, and he finds out what's being done to protect local families who find themselves homeless because of domestic violence.
Well, I pretty much started running away from home when I was 12.
Jennifer Hardeman had to grow up fast and at a young age.
There was domestic battery in our home.
She saw and experienced things that no child should ever have to go through.
My father was an alcoholic and he beat my mother.
And although Jennifer's mother took the brunt of her father's anger, she wasn't protected.
I would get dragged into adult conversations at a very young age. Because my dad always figured I knew something that was going on.
Because of that traumatic experience, Jennifer moved out of her home at the age of 12.
When you're that young and you get dragged into your parents' confusion, it leaves not so good impression on you.
But her problems wouldn't end by moving out. Later in life, she faced a drug problem, followed by prison.
My homelessness didn't start until I had a prison run. And after that stint, when I got out, it was hard to bounce back.
And from then, it's been hard for her to maintain a home for herself and her 2 daughters. Thousands of women across the Bay Area have similar stories of going through or witnessing domestic violence at a young age, followed by chronic homelessness in their adult lives. According to the ACLU, 47% of homeless school-age children say they've witnessed domestic violence.
We see that time and time again. In fact, we see it way too often.
Kirk Ray Smith is the president of Hope Villages of America in Pinellas County. Because few shelters allow families to stay together, Hope Villages provides 90 beds for displaced families.
And we hear the stories over and over how this started when they were teens, 15, 16, 17, and it continued almost as if they were stratified and sort of generationally stuck in that cycle because their parents went through the very same thing.
According to a study conducted by the ACLU, 46% of domestic violence survivors in Florida reported they experienced homelessness as a result of the violence.
So why are we seeing a connection between those experiencing domestic violence in the formative years and chronic homelessness? One expert tells me it has everything to do with untreated trauma.
Traumatic experiences, especially if they aren't addressed holistically, can leave lasting challenges for survivors.
Mindy Murphy is the president of the Spring of Tampa Bay. They provide assistance to thousands of survivors of domestic violence in the Bay Area.
So young women, and still in high school, and the beginnings of the dating world, up until your early 20s, that is really the greatest risk to losing your life.
In fact, Mindy says ages 16 to 25 are statistically the deadliest years for women going through domestic violence. Another reason why maintaining a home for people in abusive relationships is a challenge is because many landlords evict tenants when violence occurs in the home, regardless of whether the tenant is the perpetrator or the victim of violence. In Washington, the House recently voted on the Violence Against Women Act. It received unanimous Democratic support along with 29 Republican voters. If it passes the Senate, the act will allow for leases to be divided in order to evict only the perpetrator of violence, and it will also make it illegal for public housing complexes or for landlords who accept Section 8 vouchers to reject an applicant who is a survivor of domestic violence. Back in Pinellas County, Jennifer is staying in a shelter and trying to get back on her feet.
I have 2 girls at home, and I don't want them to feel that this is the way a relationship is supposed to be. I want to break the chain, the cycle, right now.
She wants to show her daughters a different reality.
Domestic violence is a serious topic, and it's a cycle that affects way too many people in the Bay Area. I've posted on our website several links to resources to help those who are going through domestic violence. It's abcactionnews.com. In Tampa, I'm in-depth reporter Anthony Hill, ABC Action News.